And God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night. And let them be for signs and for seasons, and for days and years. And let them be lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light upon the earth." And it was so. And God made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. And God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw it was good. And there was evening and there was morning the 4th day. In verse 14, some translations will state that God calls there to be lights in the rakia. However, the word for lights in Hebrew in this passage is not the same word as the one from the day 1 discussion. The lemma is Mā'ôr, in which refers to a light source or luminary. Prior to day 4, the light was made without a declared source, and now in day 4, there is the command for there to be light sources in the rakia of the Shamayim. These luminaries are tasked with the role of separating the day from the night according to the order established on day 1. However, it should be noted that interestingly enough, God already separated light and darkness, day and night. These lights are given the task to do the very thing that God already did in day 1. They are in some way sharing the responsibility that God has bestowed. They are the guardians of time in that the role is to be a source for dividing day and night. Guarding the time of day and night was not their only task. In fact, it would seem other tasks were also bestowed upon them. They would be for signs, seasons, and days or years. Skipping signs for now, seasons does not mean the same thing as the modern day understanding of seasons. Most readers of the 21st century would hear seasons and think of the 4 major weather-based seasons: summer, spring, fall, winter. However, Moadim refers to a place for meeting/assembly, an agreed upon time, and feasts or festivals. This would be further fleshed out for the Jewish reader in Leviticus, where God provides instruction for different types of moed. The Jewish reader would see this and understand that this would be how one would know when their festivals and meetings were, and these were the tools used for keeping track of days and years for their calendar. Now the question comes to signs. The manuscript has ot, which comes from the lemma of ot. The word can be understood as a sign, but it can also be understood as a symbol or banner. The question then is raised of what are these signs and symbols for? Throughout the biblical narrative, signs are used to indicate revelation from God about himself and his plans. An example of this can be found in the burning bush narrative of Exodus 3. If these signs are the sources of light, while also God is depicted as the ultimate source of light, according to day 1, they function as symbols that reflected back onto the Elohim who created all. These effectively almost act like heavenly image bearers. An argument could be made that this day is not just about the sun, moon, and stars as timekeepers, but as the heavenly hosts receiving their proper function of symbolizing God. In fact, the Bible seems to equate stars with spiritual beings in the Old and New Testament. The biblical authors identified and personified stars with that of the spiritual beings known as the heavenly hosts. This would also be true of the greater and lesser light, given that the ancient world viewed them as spiritual beings in the sky, although in these other religions, they were gods to be worshipped. While the modern-day reader knows the sun, moon, and stars as flaming balls of gas and a giant rock, the Israelites saw that these objects and spiritual beings as one and the same. This does not nullify the purpose given to these lights that readers today known as inanimate objects in space. However, the theological view in terms of order could and should recognize the spiritual being's connection in what their ultimate purpose is in the creative order. While these inanimate objects are not really living creatures as the ancients viewed, the theological framework that the sun, moon, and stars function to provide a sense of time on earth is still true. It is also true theologically that the heavenly hosts are in the heavenly realm symbolizing their creator, similar to how humans image God. Verse 16 picks up where God now engages in the making of the great lights and the stars. The word made is ya'ash, of which has a broad meaning including the making and fashioning of an object, in which lexicons point out that it seems to imply pre-existing materials depending on context, but also the assigning of a particular function. This plays into the polemic established on day 1 as well in the greater lights are not called the sun and moon, but downplayed given that they are not the rulers of the cosmos and other religions taught that they were. God is the one who fashioned the lights and assigned them their role. They are beneath him in authority, since they only get their roles from him. Verse 17 and 18 shows the follow-through in that they are put in the rakia of the Shamayim as rulers. They are placed there to rule over and provide light to the earth. The lights are personified as rulers, one with the task to rule over day and night for the earth. This seems to play further into the concept that spiritual beings have the connection of receiving their assignment to be symbols of the true source of light. This day is also seen as fulfilling the purpose that God set forth for the lights. God calls it good, and so concludes the fourth day.